Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another interview with one of the Welsh politicians. This evening, I'm joined with Peter Black, who is my regional AM for South Wales West. I get it right this time.
Absolutely.
And Peter's one of the Welsh Lib Democrats, and the Welsh Lib Democrats have been so supportive of vaping since the start of the Public Health Wales bill has been put through. So it's basically a little chat between myself and Peter and what he thinks about the bill and where the Welsh Lib Dems plan to go. So, right, we know Kirsty has been very supportive of all vaping in the public. Yeah. And we've seen the same from you as well.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, there's a number of reasons why I think vaping should be supported. First of all, it's helping a lot of people give up cigarettes. And although vaping, someone who vapes isn't entirely a safe pursuit, it's far safer than smoking cigarettes. It improves people's health tremendously, and of course that means there's a less cost to the NHS as a result of that. So I think that we should be able to say to the vaping industry that actually what you have as a product is a good thing, because you're helping people get healthier, you're helping people give up smoking, you're doing something which governments for decades have failed to do. You know, people have given up smoking, but not in the sort of numbers which are giving up now to take up vaping. And I think that in itself is a really good thing for health generally in Wales and for the health service.
Right, okay. So basically you're saying that vaping is a very good health improvement for smoker switches.
Yes.
So how does that fit in to the Public Health Wales bill as it stands? Surely it doesn't.
Well, it doesn't, no. I mean, the Welsh Government have taken the view that vaping, they've taken a number of views. One is that they think vaping acts as a gateway to smoking, but they have no evidence for that. And the second thing they're arguing is that maybe the vapors could have an impact on second-hand smoke. People in around vapors would suffer as a result of the fumes. Again, there is no evidence for that. But the Minister is saying this is a precautionary approach. He's saying until we have the evidence, we should take the precaution of saying that vaping should not be allowed in public spaces the same way as smoking. Now, there are decades of evidence, epidemiological studies in relation to smoking that shows that second-hand smoke from cigarettes does harm people in the vicinity of smokers. And I think that's absolutely right. As a result of that we said that we should not have smoking in public places. However, there is absolutely no evidence to back up the Minister's point of view, either in terms of vaping encourages people to take up smoking, or that the vapors themselves affect people in the vicinity. And I don't see how you can legislate on that basis if you have no evidence to back it up. And so we're saying that this is an unnecessary and restrictive provision which should not be going into a bill unless you have the evidence to support it.
Right, okay, so we've pretty much established that the Minister has no evidence, but he's been taking on advice from international bodies such as the World Health Organization and the UK-based BMA. But surely, he's taken the advice on rather than following the science.
Yeah.
Should he actually follow the science instead?
Yes, he should. I mean, the BMA basically will ban anything, frankly, if they think it's bad for your health. They'll ban sweets, they'll ban all sorts of stuff. And people make choices. People have the right to make choices about their health, and as long as they're informed about what those choices will mean for them. But the World Health Organization, they're basically taking the same view. Minister, this is a precautionary approach. They don't have the evidence either. But there's a lot of scientific studies which shows that vaping is not as dangerous as smoking. That there is there is no danger from secondhand smoke. But also that in terms of people taking up smoking, that actually there is. The studies they've been carried out to date show that nobody takes up smoking as a result of vaping, and nobody gets into smoking having started with vaping, and certainly not young people. So the science says that this measure is wrong. The science says the Minister has no support, so he should follow the science.
And he hasn't done that. He also hasn't followed the input of people like myself.
No.
It's like... I submitted a response to the Public Health Wales Bill consultation.
Yeah.
I opened myself up for invitation to the HSCC. I wasn't invited. Okay, so basically the question is do you think that the process and the health minister has completely ignored the end consumer that this legislation affects?
Yes, I do. I mean, the health committee itself has quite extensive evidence which says that the provisions in the bill around vaping are not necessary and should not be supported. Having said that, despite that, the committee itself voted by a majority support it because one of the Plaid Cymru members sided with the government, and that's unfortunate because it may well be, if the opposition had kept united, we might be able to block this. We still are going to try to block this. We're going to table amendments in the next few weeks to try to stop this. But the Health Committee's evidence, and the evidence gone to the Minister, is quite clear on this, that the Minister should not be taking this route. And I think the Minister should have listened to the evidence, looked at the science, and listened to the public opinion, which by and large is against him.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That. Right. Putting amendments in that essentially makes it more favourable as a whole. Probably going to have specific amendments to the nicotine inhaling device parts. Would you suggest that Welsh vapers out there approach their local AMs from all parties to put amendments that they would like to see?
Well, the amendments have been tabled, so the amendments are there to take out this section of the bill. What I would suggest to vapers across Wales is that in their numbers that they lobby their assembly members, irrespective of parties, particularly Labour and Plaid Cymru, and make it clear to them they do not have their support if they back these measures and do not support these amendments.
Okay, would that you say they will, the vapers will not support that AM? Would that be?
Well, that's up to them, of course. But
yeah, of course. And would that be reflected in the Welsh Assembly elections in May? Do you think that vaping, if people feel strongly enough about it, can influence their vote in May?
Well, it has potential to do that, to be honest. I mean, the turnouts in the Assembly elections are quite low. The margins are very tight, particularly the regional lists and some of the constituencies. And if vapers were prepared to vote as a bloc against AMs who had supported these restrictions, they could make a difference to a number of elections around Wales. So, my advice is to those vapers, have a look at what your AM has done, have a look on the list and on the constituency, see how they have voted on these amendments and on this bill. And if they supported the ban on vaping in public places, then you should consider saying, well, I'm not going to vote for you in the election. I'm going to vote in favour of an AM who has opposed those provisions. And I think that could make a difference in a number of marginal seats and a number of lists, which are very tight margins indeed. I mean, I won by 54 votes. That's 154,000 cast. So that's how tight some of these contests are.
So, so if we take the example of Peter's result in the last Welsh Assembly election, 54 votes is nothing. That is essentially a Welsh vape meet in terms of numbers.
Absolutely.
That can influence everything and the outcome. So, in terms of outcome and the election, the Welsh Lib Dems have been sending out vendor packs to vaping shops.
Yeah.
They've been received by a lot of the vendors that I've been talking to. Whether they decide to use them to promote is entirely up to them.
Yeah.
But what in your opinion would be the outcome of those packs? Would it be signing a petition?
Well, we already have an online petition which has got quite a lot of support. I think the point of the packs is to raise awareness amongst vapers who may not have caught up with this. I've seen a poster up in the city centre, for example, in a vaping shop. So, I know that some of them are going up in some vaping shops. So the idea is to give information out to people. And I think what people need to do with that information is if they think that they agree with it, that maybe they should use that information to lobby their AMs. We're going to start voting on the public health bill in a couple of weeks. So there's very little time now to sort of do that. We have the final stages coming up in 2 weeks' time. And that's where we need to get AMs on our side.
Yeah, and that the best result that vapers could hope for is to have the Public Health Wales bill completely fall. That is my opinion. That's probably not shared by everyone. But other parties, including more specifically Plaid Cymru, have said that it would be beneficial to have the use of vaping products as a separate piece of legislation. Does that make sense to the Welsh Lib Dems?
Well, if you have evidence to back up that separate piece of legislation, I mean, the best result, to be honest, because the Public Health Bill contains a number of other things which need to be in there, the best result is to take out the section of vaping and pass the Public Health Bill without that section in it, so that all the other measures can go through. If, however, that section on vaping stays in the Public Health Bill, the chances are the Welsh Liberal Democrats will vote against the bill because we don't support it. I think other parties need to consider their position as well and consider doing the same thing. But I think the government, unfortunately, is mixing up a very valid public health bill with a crusade against vaping, which they cannot justify by the science or the evidence.
I absolutely think that's fantastic. That is. It's not just Kirsty Williams, who's the party leader, that gets vaping. Peter gets vaping. It's fantastic to see. This is the only time we've managed to get a politician to sit down with us and talk about it. It's like well, in Wales anyway, it's quite hard. So I think everything that you said is very positive. It's it will help Welsh vapers watching to motivate them to lobby their AMs, because if that doesn't happen, I could envisage that this bill goes through as it is, give or take the amendments passing at stage 3. I'm going to go back in terms of the amendments, because you said it's all about taking away the choice to do something or not. And in the current amended version, it talks about specific places such as hospitals, playgrounds, and care homes and all that. Right, I don't have an issue with that. It's pubs, because pubs is where vapers like to hang out.
But it stops you pubs with food, doesn't it?
It stops you with pubs that serve food.
Yeah.
But right now, how can I put it? They define a food premises that serves food for a good portion of its business. There aren't many pubs out there that just sell drinks alone.
No, exactly.
If we take the example of my local in Llansamla, theoretically it's a wet pub downstairs and a restaurant upstairs. How would that work for that location? It's very awkward. So would they consider the enforcement of it all is very stop-start.
Yeah, I think this is another problem with the amendments the government have put in, because they've given way to pressure to an extent, and they've tried to limit the vaping ban to certain establishments. And as you say, some of them make sense, but my view is it's the issue for those establishments themselves to make that decision, not for government to tell them to do it, because government don't have the evidence to do it. But the establishment themselves might decide, I don't want vaping on my premises, and that's perfectly legitimate. But I think in terms of the pubs issue, that there's so many grey areas there. I think that's going to be very, very difficult to enforce. I mean, if you go to a pub and you buy a bag of crisps, does that count as a food sale? And if that's the case, does that mean that vaping can't take place in that pub? And I think and most pubs, as you say, now serve food because, frankly, alcohol sales alone don't make money. It's a family experience nowadays. You go to the pub, you have a meal, you have a few drinks, and it's all part of the same experience.
Yeah, I have no figures of how many wet pubs there are in Wales, but I'm guessing that they're few and far between.
Yeah.
So I think the health minister has been very blinkered in the approach, because it doesn't just affect health; it affects other parts of Wales as well.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to get people off smoking. Fine. How he's doing it, not so great. No. It's rubbish, frankly. And the pubs, wet lead pubs, well, will they take a risk to allow vaping? Because the enforcement of it is, would they take a risk? Probably not. They may not allow vaping, so you're going to get less people in there. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but it's all the overall, the overall impact, not just for people like me, but the businesses around here.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he's retracted. Well, it looks like he's retracted the workplaces restriction, but I would rather see that in black and white, confirming that workplaces are exempt and the current status quo of the business owner, the premises owner makes the decision. Would that be something that the Welsh Lib Dems would want to put in, just as a reassurance to?
Well, I don't really want any of this in legislation, because I think unless you have evidence, you shouldn't be legislating. My view is that because there is no evidence, we should leave vaping alone, and we should let individual establishments make their own choice as to whether or not they want to have vaping in their premises, at workplace, pubs, or other places as well. And they should make that decision themselves on the basis of their knowledge of their customers, of the knowledge of what they're selling, and the knowledge of the area. Because the danger with pubs, of course, is that if you ban vaping, then you're going to drive the vapors out with the smokers. And that's going to make it more difficult to give up smoking. You're going to maybe get vapors taking up smoking again as a result of that, unless you have separate vaping areas, which I think most pubs wouldn't look at, which I think is just unworkable. So I just think that it's better if nothing is in this bill at all. And the minister continues gathering evidence. And if he can show evidence that people do take up smoking as a result of vaping, I don't think the evidence is there. If he can show evidence that there is danger from second-hand vapors, I don't think the evidence is there either, then maybe he should come back to us.
Right, I think that's a fantastic place to end this chat on. I would like to thank Peter for taking time out of his very busy week to see us and to accommodate us. So I think it's safe to say that we like the Welsh Lib Dems to carry on what they're doing, not just now with the Public Health Wales Bill, but up until May and beyond.
Yeah.
We would like a united opposition right now to get this bill the way it should be, evidence-based and not crusade-based, as Peter said earlier. So I think what is happening in Wales is it can end up with something positive if people do their bit.
Yeah.
And so if you're a Welsh vendor, look out for the Welsh Lib Dem packs. If you don't have one, let me know, and I will contact Peter or the party directly to get one out to you. Do your bit. And this thing here, this is what it looks like right now, into a better shape for everybody.
Yeah. Lobby your AMs.
Lobby, nag, and make them so sick of you being asking to meet them that they give it, pretty much. And make sure that you see your constituent AM and your regional one as well. We don't have much time for the Public Health Wales Bill vote, so get on it. So I would like to thank Peter again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hope we talk again in the future.
Yeah.
And for now, best of luck for May.
Thank you very much.
Hope you get the result that you want.
Thank you.